All right. Welcome everyone to the Trifecta Nutrition Talk. This is our, I think this is our third time doing it, or is this our fourth time?
Mm-hmm.
I just can't keep track of the days. So I
No
really
one can.
can't keep track of what day we're on. It's all really getting bad as far as recognizing what time it is. But we're back with Coach Janice and the lovely Adrianne Ortiz. And Adrianne, I do have to ask you a question. Well, two questions.
Yeah.
And they probably have nothing to do with what we're going to talk about today. What's in the
Yeah.
charge? What's in the charged H2O? Is that where your lime and your salt's going?
Oh God, that gets so weird.
What's in the
Yeah.
charged H2O? I want to know.
So when water arrives to us, mostly if it's out of a faucet, it's going to be dead. And a lot like what I'm pulling from is from Gerald Pollack's work, and he wrote this book called The Fourth Phase of Water, which
Mm-hmm.
is, as of what we knew, water arrived as solid, vapor, and liquid.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually a fourth phase to it, which water will be it's dead when it arrives to us because of our processing systems. So we're not really, that's why a lot of people can drink a gallon of water and sometimes not even feel hydrated. They're like, dude, I'm drinking so much water, I don't even feel like it's getting in my body.
Yeah.
So you can buy shit to do this for you, but what you can do is basically just take a glass. It sounds really weird, and you can hold it. So as
Mm-hmm.
humans, we're charged, but you have to think like positive things
Yeah.
to actually charge the water.
Right.
Or you can, Himalayan sea salt does help in glass. It can do it naturally. I
Uh-huh.
can link there's a special flask that someone actually built, but there was actually a water conference that I've been trying to get into, but I don't qualify because I don't have research in the area.
Oh, wow.
So I'm trying to like weasel my way in. If I could just get in with a researcher or take a class, I'm trying to take a class with a professor that I can maybe like weasel in that way.
Mm-hmm.
That they have these water conventions for all these water nerds, but it's all about this thing called the exclusion zone, which is easy water. So
Right.
basically in the morning, I take my water and I charge it, and then I
Uh-huh.
put salt in it, which charges it again, and then I drink it from here. So
Wait,
no one has to do that.
is that a special container, or is that just a hydro flask?
No, man, this is just this is Stanley. This is a thermo thing this is old school.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
thermo mug.
All
It's
right. All
Stanley
right.
thermos, one of the
I'm
first people
just
that came up with thermos.
I'm just curious because whenever I see you do something, I try to see who's gonna take the shortest amount of time to copy you, either me or Janice. So I
Listen, I'm still learning a lot I've been trying to learn as much as I can. We don't know anything about it really.
Yeah,
Like
I
water
know.
has memory. It's
Wow.
totally weird. It's fascinating to me that we don't know anything.
It's fascinating to me that you know that.
I'm curious. I'm just really curious. I want to know why
Yeah.
things happen. That's just like all of my things just come from a deep curiosity.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I question everything. I'm like, well, is that true? And then I want to
Uh-huh.
know, which then leads you to some rabbit holes, which then leads you to people who know things.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it. And I applaud you for that because I definitely now am more aware of your social media, and I like to look for these little gems you throw in there.
Mhm.
And I like to ask you about them because I'm so
Yeah,
curious as
man.
well. Big thing for me today. Janice knows I had like over 1,000-day MyFitnessPal streak at one point in my life.
Whoa.
Yeah. So what happened is when I thought I had the flu, which was probably, maybe, hopefully, coronavirus,
Oh my
back in
God.
December, I stopped logging. And today I felt like I had to hold myself accountable because I don't have a coach, but I like to tell people I'm doing stuff because it holds me accountable.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
did I text the boss ladies chat? Is that what I did, Janice? Is that what I did? I
Yeah,
texted you, Carrie and Michelle, and
yeah.
I go, guys, I'm logging again. Today's day one. And I felt like I needed to tell them, so maybe they'll check in on me every once in a while and send me a message about my nutrition. And
Or maybe they won't.
or maybe they
Or maybe
won't.
they
But
won't.
I feel good that I told them about it. That was a really big step for me today. So
Yeah.
I'm back on logging
Good
because
job.
I think it's important to gather some information. At least not everyone's built for logging, but I do believe it has its
No.
place in gathering information. And I know we're not talking about this today, but we had a potential nutrition client, which I still think we're gonna get because she it's very clear that we can help her, and she had mentioned
Yeah.
how how she doesn't want to log or she hates logging. And I
Mm-hmm.
struggle with that sometimes because I'm like, I get it. You shouldn't have to log to know you're eating good, right? Because it's a stressor. Like
Right.
sometimes when you can't fit the pieces like a Tetris, because that's how I was. I was very Tetris-like in my fitting together of my macros. And I feel like when people can't hit those, they feel like it's a failure. It becomes stressful. Now now the food is linked to emotion again, and it's like a drug. And I try to wrap my head around, well, we have to get you to log at least for a week because we have to see what the picture looks like. And I know you can write it down and maybe we can log it for you and we could do that work. But I believe like to really start to dive in, we need some type of logging. So that's just a random thought based upon me logging today. But I was like, we need some kind of picture before we dive into this thing.
Yeah, well, I always ask everybody, if I want to take a look at your finances and you want to get out of debt, you have to see your banking sheets.
Yeah.
Like, how would you expect to get out of debt if you don't know what's coming in and out?
Yeah.
Wow. You know, I always kind of just link it to something that everybody gets, and that's money. Usually, most people are like, it's basic plus minus, and can I get a snapshot? And again, that's emotional for a lot of people. Shit, that's probably one of the most emotional, touchy subjects is money.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
So it's a broad spectrum thing. I can relate to someone and be like, you know, how would I get you out of debt? They're like, I would just look at my spending. I got to look at one piece. Let's just look at one piece of your nutritional profile and just do that.
Yeah.
So we can really like break it down. Like that's, you know, one piece of data. Again, I log one. I pay attention to one thing that has the biggest effect on me. You know, and then one of my clients, I try to find that one thing, but it's going to take some time. But usually when you use that language, they're like, oh, that makes sense. Well, we got to bring some awareness to it.
I never thought about that, even like editing the logging requirement as if we were only going to track the one macro we thought was important. So anything like for example, if we're watching protein, because it's one of the first things that we kind of take care of, just log your stuff that's protein related. You know what I mean? Let's forget. I know rice has some protein, but let's forget about rice. Let's forget about the apple that may have a gram or half gram. Let's forget about that.
Totally.
And let's just log. But that's not even why we're here today, although it's relevant. We are here because last week, I should have realized that we'd probably never get through women's nutrition in one session.
We're never going to go
because
through
and the reason why I think it's so we're never going to and I know little about this and I've been prepping and I don't prep for these calls because I appreciate these calls as far as they're a conversation between three people that really have a good handle on nutrition, and I enjoy the conversations and I learn from these. So I treat these as my professional development as well, kind of learning from you guys. And there's so much to talk about because I think are most of your clients female, Adrianne? Would you say that most of them are female, your nutrition clients? Yeah, I mean,
Uh-oh. Yeah, I had a glitch there.
You froze for a second.
Froze for a second.
That's okay. That's why I said nothing.
Right? I have 80. Yeah, I've got 80%. Janice, what's yours?
Right now, I'm actually just working with men. I'm very new to actually working with clients. One of the reasons that I got into the interest is because learning from the athletes that worked out around me and what they were doing nutrition wise, what they were feeling, what I was feeling. And my interest is working with women. Obviously I have a personal connection. I'm a woman myself. Working with athletes is kind of where I always thought that it would be the woman athlete. But more and more that I learn, it's, looking at the things I don't know and where I'm going to be, diving into this conversation. And what I'm realizing over time is that that most of the people that need help are not the athletes. Absolutely, they do. But we need to help the mainstream and then, dive a little bit deeper into working with athletes. But I know for me, like I said, that's kind of why I got as I was going through my own nutrition was like, wait a minute, I want to know the why. I'm not really understanding this. I need to know. And the next thing you know, I started doing all this research and I'm like, why am I just not getting certified here? Why am I just not? Because I'm giving information out to people in the gym when they're asking me questions because I searched it on my own. But yeah, right. I mean, that would be where I would say niche would probably be working with women overall.
And here's why I ask it, because I personally take on, and I consider this a small load of clients, I take on 4 to 6 clients every 6 weeks. And I would say in those 4 to 6, I'm only getting 1 or 2 males every cycle. And here's why I think it is. Because it's difficult to bring women to a successful level. All of them, the majority, because they are coming from a point where they've tried a lot of things, because there's a lot of things that have went on with that woman's body that is now rearing its ugly head as far as now trying to get a handle on nutrition, metabolism. And why I say that is because I wasn't really thinking too much last week. And I realized that a lot of women have taken some form of birth control. A lot of women. And they're making this decision when they're very young, right? And they're taking, especially, let's talk about oral contraception. All right. So specifically the pill, because that's the one that I think is the most common and has the most issues. And they're making this decision at a point where they're not thinking about 20 years down the line or 15 years down the line, when the priority maybe isn't, I just don't want to get pregnant. You know, now, like, I kind of want a healthy body. I want my body back. And a lot of damage, in my opinion, from what I've read, has been done already. A lot of it has. And you guys have had to make that decision when you were a lot younger. And some of the times, it wasn't even made by you. It was made by your parents because you had a problem, either to control your period, painful ones, acne, you know, all kinds of stuff. And you're like, the answer was go on the pill.
To manipulate your hormones, which is insane.
Manipulate your hormones.
To me, which is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Like I have such a hard stance on that for so many reasons, because you're playing with, I mean, you're not even, the development cycle hasn't even finished. So we're interrupting something that isn't even fit. And then what's going to happen is that's going to morph. It's going to morph the way that your hormones play out forever. You can't rectify. I mean, it can be rectified, but there has to be pretty aggressive approach to that. But I honestly think it's why we have such a weight problem, specifically because if you correlate it, and then how many, you know, in my opinion, I mean, and that there's reproduction, like right now, it's very difficult, at least in the cohort of my friends, getting pregnant has been difficult, very difficult for most of my friends. Now, some of my friends got pregnant in their 20s earlier. That didn't seem so much, but I've noticed this wave of lots of research has come up where it's, you know, fertility issues. And again, there's multifactorial issues to everything, and we can't cut out, you know, environmental and then food and then culture and then stress, you know, stress being, I think, the biggest one. But however, you know, if hormones are driving all function and we're disrupting them at such an early age, how can that not play a role later on?
Yeah, totally.
Which goes into later cycles into menopause as well. I think there's something to be said there. If you look at, again, I spot patterns and trends. Like, I'm like, that's weird, right? That's weird over there, and it's weird over here, and it's weird over here. Something's going on.
Yeah. Because I've never, I mean, you think about all, like, I would say 80% of the people I know personally that are trying to have children are having problems.
Yes,
like,
same.
It's very rare where you try to have kids once, it happens, you have a child. And that wasn't the case when my parents were trying.
No.
You know, it just wasn't the case then. And it's really sad. It's frustrating. So you spend time with a lot of these female clients and they're frustrated. They're frustrated, you know, and you try to give them the best advice how to kind of let's rebound from this. And, you know, I'll go into some of the things that maybe I think are a major issue, and you guys can comment on it. Women need testosterone.
100%.
And
100%.
I think a lot of it was stripped. You know, take the hormone therapy, a lot of it is stripped, and a lot of it is not coming back. So is there anything that women should be paying more attention to, or is it just, ladies, let's be patient. This is a longer process than you think it's going to be. You know, I don't know what your thoughts are that, but I do a lot.
With that question, are you referring to when you're saying a longer process, meaning when you get into a nutrition program, or?
Yeah, I feel like women try really hard to eat well. They do. All my clients try really, really hard, and they're doing an awesome job, and they're getting some results, right? But it's like, am I naive to say, hey guys, I think that's the best it's gonna get? You know, like, what do you guys think? I mean, I don't say that, absolutely not, but I'm asking you guys, what do you think? Or can we rebound?
Physiology is a thing, you know, and I guess because I was that person so long ago where, you know, I restricted my eating, I overtrained, and until I like truly addressed my physiology in a way that's much different that I'm like releasing later on, you know, but until I really addressed my physiology, there's no way I was going to develop muscle, eat the amount of carbs I can now, not really work out as much. Like I was just telling my girlfriend the other day, like I half-ass my workouts. They're like 15 minutes long, maybe. I mean, you know me, I was like a maniac. I used to train 6 days a week, an hour, and that was hard. It was Olympic lifting, sprinting, speed and agility. Where now I like goof off basically, and I have better results. But it's because I changed my physiology from a hormonal level. So if you're not really addressing the hormones, I like don't know, because a lot of people's estrogen, again, are so plummeted. Like you really can't develop a decent amount of muscle if you don't have like somewhat peaked, like at least enough for a few. It's not a bad thing. You need it. You know, even a lot of people that have low sex drive for females, there's no testosterone present.
Yeah.
I mean, there is massive benefits to it. Obviously, you know, where our gender for gender reasons, or however you identify, whatever, but you fall in certain spectrums of hormonal profiles as well. You know, and a lot of the female CrossFit athletes that you see, they're jack drip shits out of their mind. Like you get that way from, you know, high intensity training does release a little bit more testosterone, but you've got to be feeding that as well.
Yeah.
But again, I think, you know, it does bother me that a lot of, you know, doctors don't look at that as something, where they do look at it with men. And, you know, I just had a client not too long ago that had, I mean, he was sleeping like shit. He was depressed. He was having a clean diet and just kept on putting weight. I'm like, dude, can you please go get your test checked? And this will fall in the female scale too. I'll get to that in a second. It was like barely even 300. It was like 220, which a 14-year-old girl would have. And we did nothing but put him on a cream-based TRT. Lost like, he's down almost 40 pounds, sleeping, feeling great. Like we just got his testosterone to baseline. And I think a lot of people with females, unfortunately, like doctors don't look at that. They're going to give you, if you're depressed, let me give you this. Let me give you a Xanax. That's easy. You're not sleeping. Let me give you Ambien. So now you're on Ambien and Xanax, and really maybe you actually just need a little bit of testosterone.
Right. Yeah. And is that how, go ahead, Janice, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, you know, when it comes to all of it, in terms of nutrition with women, whether you're birth control, whether you're perimenopausal, whether you're, you know, postmenopausal, is it in your mind, if we look at the woman who's menopausal and she's at the spectrum where like all of her hormones are completely down, and if we treated all of those in terms of nutrition, and maybe not the same macronutrients, but if we treated it all actually the same, would that be better? And what I'm saying by this is that what we went over last week in terms of different phases of, you know, your menstrual cycle is a way for you to be able to see your body's health. I mean, having a menstrual cycle, you can, you know, see when you're ovulating, you're getting your period, you know, you're regular, it gives you an idea of your overall health. Now, without ovulating and having your, you know, using birth control, you're not seeing that. So obviously it takes away, but we talked about everybody needs carbohydrates. Everybody needs protein. Everybody needs a little fat in their diet. We all need resistance training.
Mm-hmm.
More and more of that may be needed as you get a little bit older.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of the actual nutrition and nutrition timing, is it something that we should be with all of our female clients, no matter where they're at in their phase, really be honing in on saying, hey guys, like this, we should be focusing more on having our carbohydrates prior to eating, and our protein exactly, as soon as we get done working out, so that women at all stages wouldn't have to then change their diet at menopause or perimenopause, or in order to make up for what they didn't have. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. So it's something.
I kind of worded it really awkward.
No, you didn't. I got it. So you're driving. So the thing that's causing testosterone to go up would be the resistance training, right? And you're trying to drive the carbs, which is going to drive more testosterone up, which would then make during out the life cycle, we can at least maintain higher amounts of testosterone going into menopause.
Right.
Yeah, I 100%. Every single person, whether they're an athlete, non-athlete, to me, the workout window, if they're training, I don't care if they're going to Planet Fitness doing 45 minutes on a treadmill. I'm trying to feed that physiological component that's causing the hormonal shifts the most. I want to make that as compound as possible. But yes, driving in carbs.
Right.
And treating that workout window where all the hormonal exchanges are happening, and that we can actually make a real actual change, like a hormonal change. Sure, I want to feed that so I can bump up all the numbers consistently. And then that'll drive hormone profile as you age throughout the life cycle. Yeah, definitely.
Because I think that's something that when we look at, like Matt and I, we have like a triangle of, our nutrition of, where we start in our base. And we talked about this a lot for weeks about how, we started the hydration and sleep and basic nutrition and food quality, and we kind of go up. When we look at nutrient timing, and I think a lot of it, maybe because we work with males, or maybe because we just think about, macronutrients over a course of a day, as long as we're eating this amount of protein over the course of the day, or this amount of carbohydrates over the course of the day, we look at nutrient timing as being something that's kind of higher up. But maybe for women overall, that should be something that's brought right in to that once we talk about food quality. And it shouldn't just be women that we're working with that are older, but educating all of our females that is actually something that will help with,
everything.
With everything. So rather than having a transition at 45 when you're getting perimenopausal and your estrogen and progesterone are all whacked out, or you're on birth control and you literally have your hormones are being replaced, possibly having that as being like a baseline of us as coaches, address kind of right off the bat. Fact of the matter is that one thing I think with females, we see more of them coming to us because I think females are just more in touch with, they care a lot more. They see things that are going awry and they're going to handle it. And that's maybe just a stereotype, but I think overall, women will typically go to the doctors probably quicker than a male will. They just will address things a little bit. So we're seeing that, but also expectation, I think, of clients in general. You can't undo 10, 12, 15 years worth of, hormonal dysfunction and in 5 weeks have that be like, well, why am I not seeing results? In general, we have to say it took all this time. Someone who's pregnant delivers a baby and in 3 months they're like, oh my God, but I'm not on my pre-pregnancy weight. Dude, you just carried a baby for 9 months. It's going to take time. But I'm just wondering if addressing that right up front and pulling that nutrient timing in for our athletes would see a better return and get them set physiologically, get their bodies, being able to absorb protein synthesis and be able to do that. Is that something that we would look at?
How often is when you guys go get your checks at the gynecologist, is there ever any blood work talked about?
No.
Never.
I do my own blood work.
Yeah. I was wondering about that. So because I did have that conversation with one of my clients about, possibly getting some blood work if things aren't moving in the right direction of what we're doing. Cause I believe there's more to the story, and blood work is very, very
Tells
important.
Everything.
Yeah.
It tells so much, and it's the cheapest thing that you can get that can give you a real good snapshot of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go to the regular doctor, they're not going to give you the overall. I think you need like the sex hormone.
Yeah.
And you need to specifically ask for that, because regular blood tests might only give you a little bit of like your iron, your vitamin B levels, but hormonally it's not really going to tell, where your testosterone levels are. But your regular doctor can do that if you ask for a full panel and a sex hormone. And I've never had one done. Not
Never.
one. Never. I need to do that.
Janice, you're jacked. Yeah, you know what? We need to get your blood work done so we know what the profile looks like. So then we know that the closer we get someone's blood profile to yours, we're headed in the right direction.
Hey, I'll tell you, bringing back to that birth control, the tough thing is, and how do we get our physicians, our doctors, and this had me thinking last week when we had Baber on about integrative medicine. How do we get the nutrition and the doctors kind of all together? I was 17 years old. I was a gymnast, had very sporadic periods. So I didn't get my period till I was older, and maybe 3 times a year I had it. And then I had endometriosis. So I was put on birth control to stop me from ovulating. Now, luckily, I guess for me, is that I could not find one pill that I could handle. I was a fucking mess, meaning like I depressed, and they would say wait 6 months, and I just dealt with it. I just dealt with having terrible cramps and some supplements that I would take, but that was what I thought was the only thing I could do, and that doctor was so sure there was never another option. So how do we get that doctors more educated on that? They have so much school that they go to, but it's so much about prescribing. How do we get past that? How do you get your 18-year-old daughter to say, well, are you sure? Because you're trusting your doctor. They know best,
Doctors only take one nutrition course in their studies. And I don't think that's going to change, unfortunately. It's just how to change how they learn medicine. And it's not their fault because they're only trained in a certain way, right? So I never kind of blame them. It's this, the system, you can't rewire it too much. However, I, again, just try to give as much education as I can. And especially because, when we get to know our athletes, we get to know them on an intimate level. I have 3 people that I refer out to, and when they're done with them, then they can come back to me, and they're actual, like you said, integrative medicine doctors. So if they're going to do that, I want them to go over here. Just like, hey, just go check that out. It's an option. And then, Western medicine isn't the worst thing, but Eastern medicine's been around forever. So it's just, again, sometimes unfortunately, again, in our culture, we just over prescribe, and there's a profit kickback to it, and it's all kind of tied into this ugly thing. And again, I try not to spend too much time on the ugly thing because it is what it is. And that's a battle that it's just, the system is, right? However, parents and people are more apt to ask questions and not as much to take a pill anymore. I have seen that trend over the past 5 years where people are like, I just don't want to take a pill, which is kind of awesome. But then they're like, well, I don't know what to do. I don't want to take a pill. So I think it's our job to be intermediaries. Since I'm not a doctor at all, I'm a nutrition coach, so I have to stay in my lane. So I try to just find people in my area that specialize in these things, and at least I can refer out to them. And that when they're cleaned up, meaning when they've specifically handled that problem, they're going to be better to work with me anyway. And plus it's a nice referral business for you. But yeah, it's a slippery slope. But I definitely think the tonality has changed. Definitely in the past half decade, where people, even my mom, who I would push on the more end of a pill popper, is not, in the past couple of years, just doesn't want to take pills anymore. Well, it's strange. It's like there's this kind of backlash against it, where it's like, I just don't want to be on a drug anymore. I think people do want to not be reliant on it, but they need education. And I think the reason why people just do it is because it's so much legwork to go find the right person, to find something that's going to work. Because what if you met someone like me that was like, hey, go here. This is a person who has great work. It's exactly what they do. And they're going to help you. Instead of you struggling for like 2 years and trying 8 different medications. You know what I'm saying? So like, if I figure it's kind of like our job to just look in our area of people that are trustworthy in these specific areas. And, you know, especially I have a lot of people that have very deep gut issues that I can't get to. It's usually a parasite at some point, or some microbiome that's far beyond my education scale. So I have certain people that I put them on my program and I get them out to them and then they come back to me. It's like physical therapists. Like, blow out your ankle. I can only do so much soft tissue work. And I need you to get help, get fixed up, then come back. So I think it's putting in a nice broad spectrum where we can really help people by finding the right people who specialize in these areas, you know, especially with hormones. Like I can only do so much with nutrition and habit change. But if they need a true, you know, we can take this global scale of symptoms and behavior change. If we can get it to an acute problem and be like, hey, I know a guy that does exactly this. Here's that. You know what I'm saying? I think that's, it's at least so far I've seen that been helpful. But I think, like I said, even with a lot of Netflix documentaries coming out, like there's a big push back against taking pills, which is great, you know? So that's kind of the run around that question.
I like it. I'm just watching. I'm watching you guys go back and forth. I'm like, I feel like I'm an expert now. No, far from it. But yeah, it's interesting. I want to go back to we were talking about that window and how timing is very, very important as far as nutrition. And now I think we've agreed that we're going to put, you know, kind of some more priority on it for our female clients, because I was kind of, you know, my school of thought around it is the timing is one of the last pieces I put in there, depending on where they are. If they're so far off as far as I'm not even eating enough yet, I don't worry about the timing. And now you guys honestly have me thinking otherwise, that timing is important with the female nutrition client, especially given the hormonal imbalances. And with that, I wanted to add the type of training, and Adrianne touched on that a little bit. And I'm always a big fan that we need to lift weights. And you hear how it sounds when I say it. It's not appealing. It's not sexy. It's not. And it's intimidating. And sometimes when I tell people that they should lift weights, you know what they think, because of the type of guy I am and the sector that I coach in? They think it's snatches. They think it's power cleans, right? They don't think it's picking 8 total body exercise program with a dumbbell and some body weight and picking 6 to 8 exercises alternating in fashion and just do 3 sets of 10 with about a minute a rest in between. It's very, very simple, right? And I think that type of training is so important for women, but it's just not sexy. And what I mean by that, it doesn't leave you gassed on the floor. It's boring, right? We don't feel exhausted afterwards, so we don't get that endorphin release after we're done. You know, it's different. I've been doing more of the hypertrophy work just because of where I'm at. I've been doing more of that stuff, and I think it's been paying dividends for me. And you know, I would like to get that point across to the females, especially the ones that are listening, is we do need to be lifting weights, and it doesn't need to be cardio. And although something is better than nothing, if we're looking at optimizing, we need to be doing a little bit more weight training. And specifically for the clients we deal with, I like hypertrophy work. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I love hypertrophy work. I love it in so many different ways to build. I always have built it in, but I spent, like you said, a lot more time focusing on it very recently. But you need to lift you know, and again, I have to take myself out of the equation. If you're between 18 and like 27, you need to be lifting a little bit on the heavier side, lower reps, low. You don't have to die, but it can be in smaller windows of, you know, one exercise and just crank that out. And again, it's boring as shit. Yeah. Most people are like, dude, what do you do? I'm like, I do one exercise. I warm up and do one exercise for 10 to 20 minutes. And people are like, really? That's boring. I'm like, yeah, but it works and it's efficient. I think hypertrophy training is better on the joints. You get more blood flow. You pay attention to your joints way more to what you're doing. I think with a lot of the explosive lifts that you and I are we've attracted to, you can bypass so much of it if you're athletic.
Mm-hmm.
You can get away with a lot of stuff. I noticed when I started doing hypertrophy training specifically that I literally could not contract my pec muscles at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like the guy that I trained with was ripping me apart. He's like, you have no chest.
Mm-hmm.
So he put me on because, even when I do push-ups, I'm like, yeah, but I can do 100 push-ups straight. He's like, yeah, because it's all triceps for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even and I've been a strength coach as long as you. And there's
Mm-hmm.
small things and idiosyncrasies, but you have to put the muscle under tension no matter what, if it's body weight or something. But cardio is just not going to change your body at all. It really
Mm-hmm.
does. If anything, I think it would probably, unless you're swimming, it would cause more injury because there's a skill adaptation to any cardiovascular activity.
Mm-hmm.
Literally every single one of them, there's a skill, and most people don't have the skill. You have to have prerequisites to run,
Mm-hmm.
to be honest.
Yeah.
Gait is one of the most difficult things to teach, and it's the first thing people default to.
Yeah.
I think that hypertrophy training, is easier to learn. You can do joint by joint. You can make it fun too if you want, but if you're a girl that wants to, if you want to appear to even look like you work out,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to probably have to do some hypertrophy training.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's just it's going to be difficult to argue against that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Janice, I think you've been doing a lot less intense activity. And when I say intense, I want to go to what we were typically used to doing in the gym. Right during this time, I think you personally have been doing a lot more slow, controlled body weight movements, dumbbell training and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's not sexy and I hate it. Long before CrossFit, long before, even when I worked out in the gym, when I was in my 20s, I did it, but I always did stations. So I basically kind of was doing CrossFit. I would pick 4 exercises and I would do it where I would hit one and always in between, I would then hit abs. I had to have where I felt like my heart rate was going up. I will tell you, and I said this yesterday, I've always been able to bang out push-ups where it's, my upper body is definitely nowhere near as strong as my lower body. However, we did yesterday's workout, which was 30 minutes, and it had 20 push-ups in every round. I got through 6 rounds, and it was kind of break them up, sets of 5, don't do, 4 rounds. And I saw yesterday for the first time in the 40 some days that we've been training, holy shit. At the end, I was hitting 20 and actually going to a little bit more of a gymnastic push-up where I was coming down. And I know that is only because our focus or my focus has changed so much from that high intensity to hitting, body parts and isolate, isometric holds. That has really, really changed. And I'm like, you know what? I might go back to the gym and be fucking stronger. Is that who would have thought?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I just think it has such an important role in how your body even looks. And that's what we're really talking about here too, because a lot of these people that come work with us, especially the females, 90% of their goals is they just want to look good.
Yeah.
They want to look like they work out. And they have this mentality that the longer and the more junk we could shove in a workout and the harder it becomes and less sustainable it becomes, that's the better option. And Adrianne said something really cool about not having the skill to run, right? So here's a situation we run into, and I run with some females sometimes, and males too, is so we'll do a workout that has front squats in it, a metabolic workout that has front squats in it. And what we'll do is, so we will have someone that cannot get into the rack position. So what happens? They want to force the front squat, and the weight, their skill is not high enough, so the weight can't get high enough to even create a response. But if you ask that person to do a goblet squat instead, they feel like psychologically they're doing something so different and not the real workout, but they have to remember the intention of this is to create a stimulus. And if you can get someone to end up on the floor with a goblet squat where you have the skill to perform that, that's the better route to go. And I think we're way beyond nutrition at this point where we're saying, and I'm saying this is for our training, the training that we provide in the gym, we need to make sure these folks have the skill acquisition to do the exercise, or they will never elicit the same effect. They won't. And I think we have to get over the idea of that, guys, we're doing thrusters today. Not everyone's doing thrusters. All right. Because if you don't have the skill to actually elicit that really hard metabolic effect, then we're just losing the point here. We are. And that running skill comment just made me think about, how we bring people from, a person that can't dynamically deadlift, and we have them do power cleans. Now, we may have them use little or no weight, right, and work on technique. But what are we really trying to do here? We're trying to create a hormonal response. Mm-hmm. That's the benefit of some of these short sprints, these clusters we do that are metabolic, but they're very short. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And if they don't have the skill, they're never going to elicit that hormonal response. And especially for women, this is so important, because what I'm learning over this conversation is this is more about hormonal and less about, let me do the exercise that burns more calories. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm taking out over all this. And I'm almost thinking like we need to make specific changes when we even go back to the gym, to our programming, and folks that maybe they can fundamentally be okay with a power clean and workout, but just because they're okay, does it mean that's what they should be using? Right. Because it's not hard enough for them. It's not. Mm-hmm. It's not. But again, there's that sexy word again.
But I think but even though this is where something that I've really, really honed in on the past, even like 30 days since I've been in quarantine, is like our jargon of words, and that we have no measuring scale for it. So people are like, I want it to be hard. What does hard mean? Mm-hmm. What does it look like? What does it feel like? Can we measure it? So in the gym, if I want to die, I just want to, can you just kill me today? What does that mean? Okay. Where do you want to be exhausted, dead? Do you want me to crush your central nervous system? You're lying on the floor in a puddle of sweat and can't get off the floor and have a headache and then want to drive home shaking. Is that what hard means? Mm-hmm. Right. So like really understanding, even when earlier you said like a lot of people come in and say, I want to look better. What does that look like for you? Most people do, and this is where a lot of, I think, eating disorders happen. They don't understand what that look is. So that look is never enough for them. Yeah. Mentally, they don't know what it feels like to stand in that body and go, this is how I want to feel and look. They've never even envisioned it, what it looks like, the emotional profile, how it feels like. So like we come up with these words, I want to feel better. Okay, what is that energy, sleep? Are we talking about AM, PM, around your workouts? Are you dipping in at 3 p.m.? Like we need to bring context to these words. Mm-hmm. And then in that context, measure it. Mm-hmm. And then that's like a big thing that when I'm really starting to hear, when I'm hearing people, when I'm hearing them all day long, so I'm on consultations on nutrition, like 8, 9, 10 a day. And I hear it. And I'm starting to hear people differently recently. Mm-hmm. And the big thing is that I'm hearing is these constant words. I want to feel better. I want to look better. And all of these better. Well, what is better? Right. I want to be better. I want to be healthier. Well, what subjective measurements are we using for that? Even when we're talking about anything and even going, bringing it full circle back into the hormones of driving these things, is when I'm doing all of these things, is it making them better? And what is that? What are those things? What are those I just, in my in my Ammo Health course, I finally figured my own brain out where I have 7 things that I constantly measure people on along the path, where I take these 7 things and that's what I've figured out when people are talking their language. I want to feel and look better, and what those actually words mean, and how I can measure that, quantitatively throughout an entire process with someone to show them, okay, this is where we started in phase 1, 2, blip, 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 and this is where we end up. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that too is, when people want to optimize their hormones and we want to do all these things, well, what's the onboarding process? What does it look like? How are we supposed to feel? Are we laying that out? What happens? And then what happens after? Mm-hmm. And those things I've been like really honing in on with people is like, are we like we're just like word vomiting stuff out? Yeah. And I think that's the like actually the bigger picture of an issue is that we just don't understand each other.
Yeah.
Where I'm saying one thing, you're saying one thing.
Yeah.
And that I'm thinking of my head of all of these things, you're thinking about it, and then we're just meeting in this like middle ground of language that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and we really don't know even what they want, because
No.
you know, you had a good thing, like, how do we measure I want to look good? Well, show me a picture of the person you want to look like. Let's be real. Let's see what that is. You know, because we have to measure it, right? I mean, you have to be, and unfortunately, in my world, you know who they want to look like, the CrossFitters that are on TV and that are on the internet as a female, and it sometimes I
Did
think
they want to look? Wait, I have a question. Did they want to look like that the first day they walked in our gym?
No.
Probably not.
Nope.
I don't want to be bulky. I don't want to be bulky.
Yeah.
I was that person. I walked in 2013, and coach staff said, well, what do you want to do CrossFit? I said, well, I don't want to be bulky. I can't lift weights. I was fighting it so much, and now I'm like, can I just get bigger? I need to get bigger.
Yeah.
I might be bulky to some people, but to me, I'm like, I want to get stronger. I want to feel good.
Yeah.
I think on lines of what you were saying too, is when it comes to that jargon, I often find I want to lose weight. That's a goal. Okay, well, why do you want to lose weight? Is it because of the number on the scale? Well, no, I want to tone and I want to lose fat. So when that's a complete different thing from losing weight. So then also when it comes to programming and it comes to calories and all of those things, it's, you know, you have to be anabolic in order to build muscle. So if you have to do this weight training and to build muscle. You're not in an anabolic state when you're doing 45 minutes of steady state cardio.
Yeah.
You're actually, if you're lifting and then you're running because you're thinking I need to burn more calories, you're actually just bumping your cortisol levels up higher, causing your body more stress.
Yeah.
I think one thing that we all find too, or what I've noticed is, as a person works out and they hone in on their nutrition, what is the first thing to go? That's their exercise. You know, their what I was going to say is their NEAT. Their non-exercise now has gone down the drain. I'm working out 5 days a week. I'm putting this in. So now they're sitting a little bit more. I think if anything, we should be focusing on obviously what you do in the gym, make that time, you know, lift heavy, lift often, jump, plyometric, multidimensional movement. But then move during the day. Don't put 45 minutes in an extra session because you think you're going to get more out of it. All that's going to do is going to backfire on you.
Yeah. And you know, it's funny when you talk about people's understanding language, right? It's so crazy. So, you know, what would happen if you went out and ran for 45 minutes is you would improve your aerobic system. Yeah. That's the fact, right? You'd improve your aerobic system. And since it's a longer duration, steady state activity where you could burn more calories, you're probably going to lose weight, right? Lose weight. Now, you have two main tissues that we're really concerned with here: lean body mass and fat tissue, right? Lean muscle tissue and fat tissue. Which one do you want, right? Because if you want to do the cardio all the time, then guess what's going to happen is just you don't know which one's going away. They both could go away. You could lose some fat and you can lose some muscle, and you lost some weight, but you don't look any different, you know? And I think that it's such a good point is that we need to be more clear on what we need to speak the same language and be more clear actually what they want, because again, we're meeting in this area where we think we know what we're talking about, both of us, client and the coach, and we really don't.
Yeah.
You know?
You know what? I think also when it comes to resistance training, I mean, when you look at, we've talked about some of the difference between men and women, but women actually don't have that fast twitch, as many fast twitch muscle fibers as men. So as we age, without resistance training, that muscle just goes. So we need to keep feeding that, whether it's doing, you know, isolated lifting or full body resistance training. We need to continue to do that. We actually have more fibers for endurance. Like we're built that way. So incorporating 3 to 4 days of doing, you know, 3 days maybe for some, 4 days for others of that lifting and resistance training and plyometrics and jumping, really good for your joints, really good to build muscle. And then if you feel like you need to go for a run because you want to get that endurance in, do that separately, but don't do that as a compound to think I need to do more in order to lose.
Because then that comes back to the whole thing. We're just gonna have to eat more. You
Yeah.
know, we got to eat more if we want to build tissue.
Yeah.
Then we're gonna have to eat more.
Yep.
And I think generally, we need to kind of spread that message that, you know, women do need to eat more. And I think the most important part of nutrition, women's nutrition part 1 and 2, is we need to stop under eating. You know, because it's not getting us to our weight loss or body or the way our body looks, those goals, and it's really just creating more work, especially hormonally, a lot more work, you know. We only have 10 minutes left here, and I did want to open it up if anyone did have a question that wants to come on live or type it in the chat box, because I know we went over a little bit, and
but we hit so many great points.
Yeah. So I apologize for that, but I have comments. I have comments in here, but no questions. All right, I'm good.
I know Jackie made a comment about IUD.
Yeah, no, I do have a question. Is there a better suggestion for birth control other than oral contraceptive?
So the IUD would probably be, there's different forms of IUDs, but definitely is, you know, probably less hormonally disruptive.
Yeah.
Copper has no hormones attached to it. And then I believe there is an oral that's progesterone only. It's like a mini pill that has been seen beyond the IUD to also be effective in the sense of preventing pregnancy, keeping you regular, however, not affecting your hormones as much.
Yeah. Here's something really novel. Get the guy to step the hell up. I mean, I'm just saying, being the only guy on this phone call.
Yeah.
You know, maybe.
But I mean, then once again, that doesn't a lot of time eliminate the medical issues that, for me, honestly, childbirth was the only thing that helped me with my endometriosis. And not everybody wants to have children. Having a natural childbirth actually helped with the scar tissue, and I was able to get past that. Now, I've had an ablation, which is something that helps me. I don't bleed every month, but I still go through all the hormone things. So I've never actually been on any kind of hormones that way. But I know the IUD gives you more of a localized dose of that, of the progesterone, rather than it going through your whole bloodstream. So it doesn't mess as much with your hormones and the repercussions of it.
All right. Well, I feel learned today. So I thank you guys, and we'll chat. We'll announce a topic for next week. I know we have a couple ideas, but thanks for everyone for coming into the room to listen today. And we'll get this up on YouTube, and I think we're gonna play around with getting this on Stitcher. Is that right?
Yeah,
Janice?
Stitcher would be awesome.
So
cool.
We're gonna play around with getting it on there, because this also downloads the MP4. So I think we're all good. All right. All right, so thank you guys. I appreciate it. All right, have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you guys next week.
Word.
All right, see you guys.